So something got funky in there, and my second string went way out of tune. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. So I got this new nut on here. It's adjustable. It's really cool. I'm not sure if it's going to work on this guitar though, because this guitar has a much more extreme angle of the strings than most guitars. And so that may not hold the string in well enough. Ah, okay. Let's get that tuned back up. Okay. It's kind of funky playing that without a second string. I'm having to skip from string 3 to 1 and back. It worked out. It's kind of cool. Randy's nut's too big. True story. All right. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome to the Mad Poet Show. I am the Mad Poet. You are an audience. We are the Mad Poet Society. Thank you for being here. Tonight we are playing my 48th album. It is titled Murder Terminology. That first song was called Dark Intent. It was played on a custom 5-string guitar. Hopefully we'll have all 6 strings for this. Let's see what happens here. This one's called Sacrificed in Thy Mirror. Oh, good times, good times. My string worked that time. Yeah, I've got the same style nut on this guitar. This had the nut that was on here was fine, but it had a chunk broken out of it, so I wanted to replace it. And then I also got the same kind for my Les Paul back there. I've had weird string things going on lately. Thank you very much for the compliments, Ray. I'm glad you like this. Ray and I used to be in a band together. He and his wife, Vivian, and I were all in this heavy metal band together. And they're awesome. And in fact, if you go to themadpoet.net, scroll down a little ways on the main page, there's this picture of a red door. And I had taken this photograph of this really cool door on, I think it was on some cathedral down in Seattle. And I sent it to Vivian. I'm like, hey, could you make this door red? And if possible, on this little sign here identifying the building, could you make it say The Mad Poet? And she just knocked it out of the park. So that's actually front and center on my new updated themadpoet.net. And the madpoet.net updated courtesy of the awesome, talented, and lovely Mrs. Sarah. And cool. Oh, we got Zarniver in on Kick.com. We also got Recursive Trauma. Sean, what's going on? Coming in from Kick.com. We got Ray and friends over on Twitch. We got it's got the whole crazy thing going on here. Hope everyone is enjoying the show. Hope everyone's having a lovely Eastern Washington day. Whether you are in Eastern Washington or not is really not even a part of that consideration. Just have a great day out there. Let's keep this thing rocking. This next one is called The Winter of Terror. That is not going to work out. That second string popped out of its slot again. So I'll have to take a look at that when I got some better light and stuff. But we're just going to switch to a different guitar. That's going to make life much, much simpler. And I might even be able to hit some notes that are in tune. I wouldn't entirely count on that, but it's at least a possibility at that point. Okay, where did I put the other guitar strap? The way the strap goes onto a V-style guitar is different than the way it goes onto a standard Strat-shaped guitar. You just hit more minor thirds more often. That's all you got to do right there, baby. Ray is one of my fellow music theory geeks. So, yeah, when I was working on my 65th album, Ray gave me a significant amount of help. His wife, Vivian, she has literal perfect pitch. When we were in the band together, I could just be like, hey, Viv, could you sing an A? And I could just tune my guitar to her. It was crazy how amazing her pitch recognition is. And excellent singer, too. But they both have, Ray and Viv both have great ears. And Ray and I had a few consultations about the production stuff, and he pointed me in some very good directions to help me get everything up and running the way it needed to be. It made a very big impact on how production would go from that point forward for the crazy little mad poet here. So always big thanks go out to my man Ray. Okay, let's grab another guitar. I haven't played guitar in a long time. Let's try this one out. These strings have got to be so freaking dead. But I normally play on dead strings, so I don't mind that. The reason that I don't change my strings very often, a lot of people, guitar techs and stuff will tell you it's really important to change your strings really often. And I don't change my strings often because I don't freaking want to. That's it. That's the reason right there. I don't enjoy doing it, so I'm not going to. Why? Why do I not have any juice coming out of my guitar? What's wrong with my little guitar? I'm showing a signal. Oh, I'm muted. Gotcha. Okay. That's why we have electronic tuners. I can do it without hearing it. Still need to be able to see where my guitar pick's at. So it's always good to take your black guitar pick, set it on a black desk so you just can't see it. That's the best way. I haven't played this guitar in a long time. This will be fun. It's one of the great things about having multiple guitars. If something's not working right, you can just switch out. And I don't know if you guys were, yesterday I did a sheet music stream. But if you're watching last week, the last show that I did, I had the first string was coming out of tune on my Les Paul. And I thought that maybe, it's a very new guitar, just had it for a couple months. I thought maybe my tuner was actually bad. Turns out I've been playing guitar for 40 years. And I've never had this happen before. So there's the ball end of the string is, it has this knob on it, the ball, so that your string will catch when you put it into a guitar. And then it's wound around itself, kind of tied up on that end. That winding came undone. And while I was doing that show, it was just like loosening up. I've had weird tuning things going on lately. Very cool. Okay. Let's get back into position here now so I can know what I'm doing. Which, I mean, I'm not going to know what I'm doing because I never know what I'm doing. And if you saw what I was doing right now, you'd be like, yeah, that dude has no idea what's going on. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy one, isn't it? Ray just said, whoa, over on Twitch. And it's like, yeah, that is really uncommon to see that kind of thing happen. It's strings, it's still just a stock string, so I don't know what brand they are. I've never had, I usually play DiMarzio's, and it's really just because that's what I started buying years ago and I've never changed. But I've never had that before. So kind of wonky. Okay, where am I at? I just water. I know the battery's not dead. I've got an automated mute. The guitar will come back on as this next song comes up. So let's make sure I got everything in place. See what I can do with this. This next song is called The Dance of Annihilation. So, for Christopher Traum over on Kick says, my last 2 string changes were motivated by a D string that had popped. Fun fact, if you buy Ramirez strings from Strings by Mail via PayPal, PayPal will delay the payment for a week because something in that combo sets off their money laundering detection algorithm. I would not have known that. Oh, that's kind of cool. That is kind of cool. Ray, I was also just wondering that same thing. I felt like I needed to turn this guitar up a little bit. So thank you for verifying that. And I'm going to do a couple things here. I think I'm going to bump the input gain up a bit for this guitar, and then also just put about another dB on the... I want to make sure I'm getting the right numbers here. Yep, okay, I was correct. That should work a little better. All right, we'll see if we can work with that. And Ray also says, man, this is so good, I need to just listen to it all more often. Well, you are certainly welcome to listen to my music as often as you like. I always appreciate that. It is very much of an honor just to know that there are people out there listening to my work in any way at all. That is such a cool thing. And when I have people tell me that they like my work for whatever reason, or it's just cool. It's a great feeling, that just knowing that. So, yes, thank you all for being fans. That's what I'm trying to say. Whew. Okay. In F minor, for those playing along on their trumpets, their saxophones, and their ukuleles, this is called The Phantom of Shame. All right, for anybody who may be coming in a little bit late, not familiar with what we do, I am the Mad Poet. You are an audience. We are the Mad Poet Society, streaming out to 16 different websites right now. So from wherever you are tuning in, thank you very much for being here. You can spend your time doing anything you wish. You've chosen to spend some of it with me, and for that, you are appreciated. It's also really cool that if you go to themadpoet.net, that is one of the sites I'm streaming to now. We're actually sending the kick feed over to that website. Sarah figured out how to do that because she's awesome. You know what else is awesome? When you kneel before the altar of madness. join the lighting crew, the mad lighting crew. And it's just that easy. That's all we got to do. Switch it back to the right channel. Hit a few buttons. Killer Afterlife, welcome in. Great to see you here. All right, saying the music is good. Thank you very much for the compliments and thanks for coming back. Last week before, I just somehow, I don't know how this stuff works, but I ended up being on like the front page of Kick.com, so I got like a whole bunch of followers that day. It was totally awesome. And Killer Afterlife is one of the people who started following in the onslaught. It was great. And I also, Zarner, if you're still in, I noticed that you have resubbed for 10 months in a row. 10 months subscription on Kick.com. Thank you very much for your continued subscription. Always great having people around. That last song, I like the live version better than the album version. And the difference is, in the live version, I use different software synthesizers. And I would continue to use the ones I've been using, but they stopped working with my with my recording software. They weren't updating properly. I still don't know what went wrong. And I was able to get out the important parts, which was the harpsichord and the piano. They had killer harpsichord and piano samples. So I had to go on a search for new synths, and the ones that I came up with, I like really well. I think I'm using a free synth called Serenity. I believe that's correct. But yeah, and this next song has a very similar feel to the last song. It almost feels like, song 6 and 7 here, that last one and this next one, it almost feels like they're almost the same song in my mind. This one's a little more upbeat. This is called Forsaken Soul. And Zarnover, thank you also for the gifted sub to Killer Afterlife. Much appreciated. Very cool. Killer Afterlife says, love your stuff. Have my eyes on a purple guitar. Cool. Kind of looks like the one you have also. Do you know any software for drums? Is there a way to make a guitar like a bass for playing wise? Yes. So definitely get a purple guitar. I do not have a purple guitar, and I don't know why, because I'm a bad mad poet. But drum software. So everything you're hearing on this is in fact software. I did not have live drums on that. And no matter, before we even get into the software, no matter how good the software is, you have to spend a lot of time learning to program drums and learning your way around your drum software. So right now, one of my students has started using the Nolly Get Good drums, which is a Kontakt library. Kontakt is a kind of an aggregator for certain plugins in audio engineering. So he and I have been working together, and I don't have Get Good, but so he's like screen sharing with me. I'm like, okay, try this, and it's setup. There's so much setup. So the big ones for drums are Superior Drummer, Nolly Get Good, and Steven Slate. And they're all really good. I'm using Superior Drummer 3. I was on Superior Drummer 2, and my buddy Jake, he and I were out for coffee. He mentioned he had upgraded to Superior 3. This was probably 6-7 years ago. And he's like, man, it is so much better. And I'm just thinking, man, how much better can it be? Right? He's like, come on over to my studio and check this out. And I was like, holy crap, that is amazing. So my pick is Superior Drummer 3. If two conditions are met, one, you can afford it. It's not inexpensive. I don't know how much it's going for now, probably $350 or so. I'm very fortunate. There's a fire alarm going off. I'll be back in a moment. Sarah, everything okay? Okay, we're safe. Okay, where were we? House is not burning down. That makes us very happy. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Completely agree. Always better to check. So, okay. I was just going to say something. Catch my breath. We're good. I was in a roommate situation. This was years ago, before I met Sarah, and I don't know exactly what happened, but one of our light fixtures caught on fire. Fire alarm's going off. I'm like running downstairs to hit breakers and get things turned off and handle this whole thing. And my roommate was literally sitting in the room next to where this thing is on fire. And he's like, and when it was all done, I was like, why did you come out of your room and see what was going on? So I just thought it was something in the kitchen. And I'm like, no. When there's a fire alarm, you take it seriously. Most of the time, it's going to be just, some bacon got a little too cooked in the kitchen. Which it was actually a steak this time. That's okay. But you take it seriously because that will help you live. I was blown away by the fact that I'm like running through the house getting this taken care of. Oh man, people just crazy. So anyway, okay, so drumming software. I think Superior Drummer 3 is going for like $300 or $400. I'm very fortunate in that I'm associated with a couple of different private studios. So I have a lot of access to software that I would be unable to afford on my own, which is awesome. Most people don't have that. One of the problems here is it's really hard to try these things out and get to know them without spending the money. So that's unfortunate. I really like Superior 3, but again, there are things you can do with any of these programs to make drums more realistic. And it's not something I want to go into here because I could talk for hours about how to program that. But I will point out that Ray, who's got the awesome ears, Ray, when he was helping me with production on album 65, he was surprised I was using a drum plugin rather than a real drummer. And that made me very happy. That meant I had gotten something right in my drums. So those are the three big ones: Stephen Slate, Get Good, and Superior Drummer. I personally prefer Superior Drummer, but that does not mean it's actually better than the others. And it's really a thing of how you use it, not what you use. Now there's an extent under which that's not true. If you get there's a little free one I sometimes lead my students to. I think it's called Empowered Drums or something like that. It's going to sound fake. They're not actual samples. And the cutoff there is on things like Stephen Slate, Get Good, and Superior. They actually take a drum kit with a drummer in a well-treated studio room with good mics and placement and everything, and they play the drums and they record it. So I said there were two things that might be a holdup on something like Superior Drummer. One is the money. Two is the amount of storage in your computer. Superior Drummer 3 is a 250 gigabyte drum library. And that's because they're literally taking these real drums, recording them, and then they do a thing called round robin, which is they'll record the same kick drum like 8 times. So it's not the exact same hit every time. It'll rotate kind of somewhat randomly through these various hits and makes it sound much more realistic. The round robin concept is one of the biggest advancements in making samples sound realistic, particularly when it comes to something like string samples, like a quick back and forth bow on a violin will sound very mechanical if you're only using one sample. If you're using 8 samples, it makes a massive difference. And there's a lot of other things that go into these and make them really good. So that's what I would suggest if you're not looking to put out music right away. If you're in the system and you're getting to know what's going on, go get multiple free drum plugins and look up some tutorials or get in touch with someone to take lessons from. Like I give lessons on these kinds of things. I'm not saying take lessons from me, but there are people out there from whom you can take lessons. You can take lessons from me if you want to. Contact me through themadpoet.net. But see how good you can get at making drum sound without a good drum sampler. Yeah. And if you can do that, then when you move up to a really good piece like Superior, Get Good, or Stephen Slate, you'll be able to make your drum sound awesome. So start with the free stuff, learn how to use it. And it's the same thing I tell my students all the time, particularly, a lot of, teenage boys, they want to go out and buy the biggest amplifier they can. And I'm like, get into some free plugins. Like the guitar, like this sound, that's coming through a free amplifier simulator. It's a great sound. And learn how to use your amp sims, because you got so much access to so many things that when you learn how to use it on this free stuff and then you go and you actually are playing through amplifiers, you'll know what you're doing. It's so great that we have this tech. As far as your second question, and hey, Mark, and welcome in. Hey, great to see you, Mark Cook. I will answer your question in a moment here. As far as making a guitar sound like a bass, that's actually really easy. You can get an octave plugin that will simply drop it by an octave, or depending on the software you're using, like I use Reaper, and you can, and this is probably true in almost all recording programs, you can just go in and say, shift the pitch down 1 octave. So it's not going to sound like an actual bass, but again, for demo purposes, it will be absolutely sufficient, and you'll do very well with it. So that's worth giving some thought to. So let me get back to the drums just for a moment and finish this. The other thing, that if you want your drums to sound good, learn how drummers drum. So drummers have the capacity to hit up to 4 things at one time: 2 feet, 2 arms. So if at any point you have programmed your drums to where 5 things would be hit at once, you're very unrealistic. And it's going to sound very inhuman. So if you're going for an inhuman sound, great, nailed it. But if you want it to sound musical, then you pretty much want it to sound human. And so being aware of that is good. And what I suggest to people is get Guitar Pro files, open them in MuseScore. Do not pay for Guitar Pro. They have been getting worse and worse with every version since version 6. It is no longer worth it. Version 6 was the last version of Guitar Pro that was worth the money. I got the half off thing when they came out with version 7. I'm like, oh, let me upgrade. I'm like, oh, that was a waste of $30. And then when version 8 came out, I looked at it, I'm like, no. I'm not even paying the half off for that part. But MuseScore is free, musescore.org. And download MuseScore. I urge you to download MuseScore version 3, not 4, because for some reason, like Guitar Pro, they made it worse at version 4 rather than better. I don't understand this. MuseScore, if you're listening, contact me and I will give you some advice. Guitar Pro, same thing. Stop being dumb. Okay. But what you do is, you download a Guitar Pro file of songs you like. Open it in MuseScore and look at how the drums are programmed in there. Look at what the drummer did. And there's a lot of really well done MuseScore files out there. Some of them are not so good, but it's great because you can open this in something like MuseScore, you listen to it, and like, yes, I like the way those drums sound. What did they do? And then copy it. Not note for note, but copy the idea, copy the concept, and make it your own. Okay. Whew. Ray asks, which guitar would I save? Not to distract from the drums recording topic. Yeah, great question. Probably the classical. If I can only save one guitar, I would probably grab the classical. If I could save 2, I would grab the classical and the Les Paul. Yeah. I hope I never have to make that choice. We had a thing, so we're out in Eastern Washington, and year or 2 back, there was a fire just outside of town. It was daytime. Sarah was actually out of town, and I smelled smoke. And like we said, we should pay attention to this. Everything's fine in the house. I go out, I open the door, and there's just smoke just rolling through town, and I'm like, that's not good. So immediately I grab the go bag, put it in the car. The emergency get out of town bag. Sarah and I both have one. I got the keys in my hand. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. So then I start looking into what's actually going on. Turns out there's a fire just outside of town. There was a strong possibility that I may have to evacuate. So it was like, okay, putting a couple guitars in cases, getting that can, back up hard drives. And like, am I going to be able to get our, what can I take if I have to evacuate? I've got one vehicle and very likely not a lot of time. Fortunately, we were fine, but yeah, it's not fun making those kind of decisions when you think your house, along with your entire town, might burn down. It was not the most fun I've ever had. Mark freaking Cook. Mark is a YouTuber, and he has interviewed me a few times. The last one we did was I think it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. Really fun. I really enjoyed the interviews with him. And so go follow Mark Cook over on YouTube. He's a very cool guy. Mark Cooks has never heard of Round Robin. Yeah, it's been around for a few years now, but it is one of the newer things. Very popular in Kontakt libraries. So if you don't have Kontakt, is Kontakt, because we're just cool musicians like that. But there are definitely other. I know that Superior Drummer has Round Robin. Stephen Slayton Good Drums have Round Robins. So it really does make things much more realistic and very cool. Love the good drum sounds really do change the way you write, and that's it's one of the things. So I write all of my music in sheet music first. So this I'm actually looking at this while I play. And right now, I'm not showing the synths and everything, just the parts that help me actually play. But so I write out things in sheet music, and if I were still using Guitar Pro, what I do would be much more challenging. And again, this program I'm using, Sibelius, unnecessarily expensive. It's owned by the people who make Pro Tools. It used to be owned by Steinberg, and then Avid bought them out. And they're just, like corporations everywhere, they're just money-grubbing jerks. They really are. And they're just out for the buck. But I mean, in sheet music, Finale, Dorico, Sibelius, all $400 to $600. Again, I'm very fortunate with the studios I'm associated with. I get a lot of access to stuff I wouldn't be able to afford. And but I mean, it's amazing what you can do in here, because you put the stuff in here, you make a playback. Last night I was on stream and I was editing the Villalobos 1928 12 Etudes manuscript, which was pretty cool. And some of the things that I'm doing, I'm working off of the 1928 handwritten manuscript, which is, I'm not in any way special having access to this. It's free to get. You can get it online. But some of the things that I wanted to do, I wanted to make it as true as possible to his handwritten version. And in Guitar Pro, that just wouldn't be possible. You can't manipulate your ties and slurs and stuff the way you can in Sibelius or Finale. So, yeah, very cool. Mark, I agree. That is a very good tip about just learn. I mean, how do you learn how to play guitar? How do you learn how to play piano? You play what other people play. How do you learn to play drums? You play what other people played, and that gives you the ideas of how to move forward with it. And so the same thing if you're going to compose, in sheet music or in MIDI or whatever for those instruments, learn how that looks. Learn what those people have done. Emulate that. That's exactly how. I mean, that's how we learn to walk. That's how we learn to talk. That's how human beings learn, is by emulating others. So, okay, Randy teacher moment over, and now I'm glad you're all here, because, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the G sharp minor portion of the show. You are welcome. This piece is called "Bleeding Out." All right, gangsters, we're moving into song number 9 here. And as my regulars know, on every album that I put out, I dedicate a song to someone I know, someone I like. This song is going out to my man Thomas, as he is sometimes known. We're going to slow it way down here. Thomas is just a very cool guy. I've known him for, over 20 years. I probably met Thomas, probably late 90s. He's a friend of a friend, and it's super cool, man. Thomas is one of those guys you just hang out with and like, dude, that guy's awesome. This is going out to my man Thomas. Thomas, I don't know if you made it in tonight. Hopefully you did. This piece is called Daydreams About Nightmares. All right. Gangsters, we're moving in on the end of the evening here. I'd like to thank everybody once again for coming out. I am the Mad Poet. You are an audience. We are the Mad Poet Society. Classical Ted coming in from Twitch. I haven't seen you in like 78 years, dude. I hope you are doing awesome. Classical Ted is also a streamer over on Twitch. And you can imagine from his name, he is very into classical music. He is a professor of classical music. And also a snake charmer. And he makes hammers in his off time as a hobby. But hey, thanks very much for coming in. Great to see you. We got one song left tonight. I love ending. Oh, Classical Ted is no longer a streamer. I thought it had been quite a while since I've seen you online. Do not follow Classical Ted on Twitch. Because, or, go be a rebel and do it anyway. We need more hammer makers in the world. We've got one more song tonight. I like ending on this one. I love the way this song feels. And it's got an excellent title. This is called Hatred Grows Too Slowly. Okay. Classical Ted. He wish he made Sam. I just he makes very cool music. In fact, I have heard a bit of Ted's music. Pretty cool stuff. No, that was just me being silly, man. It was just me making. See, my job in this world is to make fun of everything, including myself, including you guys, including music, including guitars, including pizza, everything. That is me. Ooh, that would be awesome. You know, the closest thing I've had to that, Ray, is actually, Susan Smith. She did a cover for orchestra. She did the sheet music for it. She did a choral version of Shadows of Thought. No, that's one of my songs. I have over 600 songs. I don't keep track of the titles too well. I sound like a jerk when I say that. But yeah, she did that. I think it's off of like my 59th or 60th album. She did a cover. That was, man, wild when I first heard. I've never heard an actual choir do it, but I've heard the MuseScore version. I was talking about MuseScore earlier. It's great. It would be awesome to have an orchestra accompany me. In that, that particular piece, there's definitely a very strong orchestral accompaniment in there. And in fact, I've told the story, when I played my 65th album, of when Ray and I did the work on that album to get it up to where it is. The thing that led me to want to spend the time on that album and get the production up to snuff was that in the song Fistful of Light, I wasn't hearing the nuance of the string sections that I'd written in, and I wanted to. And I feel like with the production we got to, that it really does shine through. And we are hearing that production on this, or something very close to it. This was recorded a little bit differently, but I did upgrade the production. And so I feel like the strings in that come out really nicely and really add that bed of kind of power behind that, behind the heavy metal instruments. I love the way classical and metal combine. I was out in the city a couple weeks ago. Sarah had an eye appointment, and I stopped in a coffee shop out in a place called Moses Lake, and I stopped in a coffee shop and was talking to the guy and he asked what I did. And, I teach guitar, and he's also a guitar player. I asked me about. I do mostly classical and metal. And a lot of times in that scenario, like this gentleman, people are very surprised that that I do classical and metal. To a lot of people, that seems like a very big divide, but they're actually so closely related. They work together so well. Vivaldi was absolutely metal, classical Ted. That is so true. And I think a lot of Wagner stuff is very metal. A lot of Bach stuff is very metal in nature. There's such a strong correlation between metal and classical. It's great. It's such a great relationship. So. Yes. I think, Ray, thank you very much for saying that was a killer playthrough of number 48. This is a very enjoyable album from my perspective to play through. Really just love doing this stuff. And again, everybody, wherever you're tuning in from, thank you so very much for being a part of the Mad Poet Society. That is it for me tonight.